we wanted to come up with abject physical proof that an alien base actually existed. Well, how exactly do you do that? We figured out a way to actually ultrasound the Dulce Mesa. We took things up to the mesa to see if we could find specifically a power source. So myself, Jim Delatoso, Joe Randazzo all went to the Dulce Archuleta Mesa. Now what we were looking for was electrical outputs, and we wanted to see how our sound or our sonic would interreact with any sort of electrical outputs that were coming from inside the mesa. But the actual blocks that you're about to see are the various areas where we placed transceivers that were hooked up into 9-volt batteries that we buried into the ground that were pulsing this sonic tone. Also, Dr. Delatoso found a way to run the sound through a synthesizer by running a number of tones up and down and then recording them on DAT tape. Right here he's showing the exact area of frequency as to how far out the ultrasounds went. Right here you can see the area of dispersion of what we were zeroing in on. So this area right in through here is the area that you can see that was ultrasounded through the test. Now remember, one of the things that we were searching for is we were searching for a source of electric or electromagnetic energy and a penumbra to that electromagnetic energy as well. A lot of the contactees and abductees the abductees specifically had stated that they had witnessed a central power source inside the mesa itself. The vertical lines that you see on the side are the rock faces, but you see that big red glow right in the center? That, folks, is an atomic reactor right in the middle. This atomic reactor is approximately, once again, 450 feet down. The structure itself is about 250 feet high. The green penumbra that you're seeing that runs from either side, which could have shown literally a tunnel or some sort of causeway or railroad system that runs lower to the left. The green flat areas that you are seeing would be indicative of levels or electricity that was being wired throughout a number of levels. So we discovered, in essence, an atomic pile underneath the Dulce Archuleta Mesa that was military standard, that seemed to have levels, that seemed to have a causeway or a railroad system running through the base, exactly like everybody said. When this began to come to public light was due to the efforts of a man by the name of Paul Benowitz. Benowitz, who worked for a company called the Thunder Corporation, began in his investigations to be harassed by government agents, but also he began to get very unusual readouts on his computer. And Benowitz actually claims that he was in contact with some form of alien intelligence that was coming to him from a computer that claimed to be based inside the Dulce Archuleta Mesa. Benowitz had flown over the mesa and actually came up with a map of the various entrances for where the saucers could come and go from out of the mesa. Now, subsequent investigators have found 2 engineers who claim to have actually built the place in 1953. We interviewed 14 eyewitnesses who claimed that they went under hypnosis. These were women. A number of the women had little children as well who were also abducted along with them. But in this investigation, these 14 eyewitnesses who claimed to have been abducted claimed to have actually been inside the mesa. There's also a sort of legendary figure, a fellow who is called Thomas C. This fellow Thomas C. supposedly worked as a security guard inside the base and escaped in the late 1970s with a videotape that was 6 minutes of a security camera that basically ran back and forth over a large hall in which there were these ambionic sacs where there appeared to be actual aliens in the sacs and unusual devices on the walls. So the explanation behind this was that in 1953, supposedly some sort of deal was struck between the United States government and this particular group of aliens. We don't know which bunch. Supposedly they're from Zeta Reticuli. And that in 53 we allowed them to have certain underground bases in which they could do certain types of genetic experimentation and energy experimentation in league with the U.S. military, and that in 1953 the Dulce Mesa was put together. That in 1979 a disagreement took place between the United States government and said aliens. The Dulce base reportedly was set up to be between 7 and 12 levels. That eyewitnesses have said or stated to us that the base was approximately about 450 feet down because they were taken inside elevators when the ships would land, when they would take the people that were being abducted in the back way. Usually the ships would come down the vents and come into a large hangar area, but a number of the abductees described being taken in a back way and down an elevator and then down some stairs. That this thing was supposedly 450 feet below ground and that it seemed to extend out with a power source at the center. When this disagreement occurred between the U.S. military and the aliens because the aliens had basically gotten farming rights to this planet in exchange for nothing more than a few Model Ts, in essence a couple of saucers that they gave us to take apart and figure out how they work and what have you. They apparently gave us the code to breaking the human genome, or the human RNA DNA structure, which then allowed us to be able to do all kinds of genetic engineering and crossbreeding human beings with animals and different types of animals, which was supposedly what was going on in concert with the Los Alamos Atomic Energy and Genetics Research Lab in Los Alamos, New Mexico. That when the disagreement occurred, the military insisted on certain types of weapons. The aliens themselves then said, no, we're not going to give you weapons, we'll give you the ships, but we're not going to give you the weapons. The military supposedly at the same time broke into a number of different underground levels, which the aliens had kept secure into themselves and somewhat secret from their military partners. And then when they broke into these levels, they found the levels were just strewn with bodies of either misbegotten genetic experiments or human beings that they didn't want to put back and had bled dry and thrown down into this these underground levels. The U.S. military then said to the aliens, get out of our bases, get off our planet. The aliens supposedly then said, oh yeah, make us. We then sent in a Delta Force team to try to get them out. 66 Delta Force members died.